Thank you for tuning in to Catholic Gen X, where Father Peter still uses his 5-disc CD changer.
I do. Right now it's all filled with Ozzy Osbourne. May he rest in peace.
Is it a cartridge or is it one of the spinny kinds? It doesn't matter.
It's one of the spinny kinds.
So did you? I've probably told you both. You both know I'm an old metalhead.
Yes.
Did you hear about Ozzy's final concert that was just a couple weeks ago?
He reunited with Black Sabbath.
This is my. Yeah, but you hear who the warm-up was?
No.
Metallica and Guns N' Roses.
Oh, wow.
And then he came out, he did a set of his solo stuff, and I think he took a break. And then he did a full set of Black Sabbath with, I think, all the original members, except for, I gotta believe at least a couple of those guys are probably dead. Right. But what an amazing show.
Yeah.
Whether that's your thing or not.
It must have wore him out.
Well, I don't think I knew that he had Parkinson's, and it was diagnosed like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
He went public with it only 5 or 6 years ago, but
we've had these kind of conversations on here a lot. I think he is one of those guys, whether you liked his sound or not, the guy was kind of a special musician.
Yes.
Yeah, my son Patrick was we were talking about that. The Ozzy Osbourne had died. He goes, Dad, all that satanic stuff he did, he's screwed.
You know what though? I think that's a little bit like if you hear about Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper he has very strong lines.
Well, he became very publicly a Christian.
Yes.
But the album cover, I think it's a Blizzard of Oz, and Ozzy with like a crucifix, like going to slam it like on the ground. That's not real good.
And he called himself the Prince of Darkness.
That's probably not going to be.
But in his defense, he probably wasn't Catholic. He was Episcopalian, and I think they probably look at that different. the Episcopalian pillars might be different.
Yeah, you're funny.
I need a new podcast.
If only Father Peter could just smoke in the house like it was 1970s.
A new podcast.
Yeah. So this time we had
Tom's got questions.
I do have some questions. Is that all of our intro? Any more 80s, 90s references?
Well, I know you had some burning questions.
But what else we got here? I'm going to apologize in advance. I only have a couple questions. This might not be a whole episode worth, so we might be flailing. We've done that before, and it didn't turn out well.
Yeah.
First question, Father Peter.
Yeah.
I think people misunderstand what it means to say the Pope is infallible.
Oh, 100%. Everybody does. Yeah.
So can you explain to us in layperson terms?
I thought that was the answer you needed.
No. I will tell you what I think it is.
Okay.
I think people think when we say the Pope is infallible, that means whatever he says is true and from God, maybe. That's a horrible way to say it.
Right.
I think what it really means is if you are following the direction of the Pope faithfully, that will not be held against you.
Right.
Are either of those correct?
No. This teaching of the Church was defined at Vatican Council I, which was held in the...
Was this the one where St. Valentine punched the guy?
No.
No, it wasn't St. Valentine.
That's Nicaea.
St. Nicholas.
Yeah, St. Nicholas.
Those are the days.
This council was held in the 1870s and was ended abruptly and early when the army of the Risorgimento entered Rome and ended the 1700-year reign of the Pope over the civil government of the city of Rome. Anyway, and also interestingly, the only U.S. bishop in the council to vote against the teaching on infallibility was the bishop of Little Rock, Arkansas.
Oh.
And rumor has it that they were supposed to become an archdiocese, but because they voted against papal infallibility, they've always remained just a simple
well, if there's anything the Catholic Church has, it's a memory.
It's a memory. So the teaching on papal infallibility says that the Pope is infallible, that is correct, absolutely correct, when he teaches ex cathedra, so when he's making a formal statement on his authority as Pope, in faith and morals. So Pope Leo could get up tomorrow and say, as the Roman pontiff, I solemnly teach and bind your conscience that the sun goes around the earth. Well, that's not faith and morals. That's science, and terrible science, because it's been known that the earth goes around the sun for 600 years. So that would clearly not be an exercise in infallibility. However, you are close to what we call submission to the teachings of the Pope, of the Roman Pontiff, that everything the Pope teaches, whether ex cathedra or not, should be treated respectfully, and we have an obligation to work to incorporate our understanding of that as best as possible. But it's not infallible. So, I don't know. Pope Francis said that, he inserted a sentence into the catechism that the death penalty is not admissible. Not infallible teaching, but one that challenges us to re-examine our own thoughts and feelings on the death penalty and try to be in line with the direction of the Roman Pontiff.
So what if Pope Leo decided tomorrow, not eating meat on Friday is stupid, you don't have to do that anymore? What would that be an example of?
Well, he could teach it as part of what we call his ordinary magisterium, or he could solemnly proclaim it as an infallible teaching. Two different levels of teaching, asking for two different levels of respect. Does that make sense?
It does. I feel like there's a lot more layers there, but we might not want to get into.
Well, even like different papal documents are accorded by theologians and canon lawyers as having different levels of obedience required to them.
Well, so you guys know I work in regulation.
Right.
And this is not a political statement, it's just reality. People who do what I do are having a little bit of whiplash right now because the regulatory environment has changed so drastically and so quickly.
Right.
Could, in theory, the same thing happen with popes?
Not with, so we're not going to have a pope who gets up and says, Mary was not born sinless, or Mary did not ascend into heaven, or there was no such thing as the virgin birth of Christ, or that's impossible, and nobody would believe it and would have no weight because it goes against all of tradition and all of sacred scripture and all kinds of things, right? So not going to happen. Could the Pope, though, get up and say, eating meat on Friday is not a sin? Well, yes, in essence, they've already said that by saying you can do another penance on Friday instead. So we have a
but he could say, you don't even need to do that. Let's just forget the whole Friday thing.
Right. 100%. That is purely disciplinary.
And then the next pope could be like, you know what? My predecessor was wrong.
Yes. But that's why popes generally, they tend not to officially overwrite each other.
Okay.
Just good papal courtesy, Tom.
Supreme Court used to do that same thing.
Yes.
Anything further on that topic?
No.
All right, John. Mm-hmm. Please, you're both mental health. You have a mental health background too, so please.
You still have your license?
I never had a license.
Oh, you didn't?
No. I was never insurance paid.
It was a different time.
I have a tendency to oversimplify things. Okay. So
I don't think
let's
that's true.
try to keep this simple.
Mm-hmm.
And if what I'm saying is just patently wrong, then we'll just talk about something else. I have seen more and more recently about there was a thought in the mental health world that there was a point where the way we handle mental health could have taken one of two branches. One was Freud, which my understanding is we took, but there was another contemporary that had a different approach to Freud. Jung?
Yeah.
Carl Jung.
Carl Jung.
And a lot of people think we'd be better off today if we had followed his branch.
Okay.
Does that have any, for you as a Catholic therapist, does that have any bearing on you at all, or is it totally irrelevant?
Well, psychology nerds, turn up the volume.
Is this one of those, I am so glad you asked this question?
That's right. I've been waiting for this question for years now, Tom. So Freud is commonly kind of seen as like the father of like modern psychology or psychiatry. So back in those days, you would have to be a physician, typically a neurologist, to actually practice psychiatry. Psychiatry really wasn't a thing. It would talk about neuroses and Janet,
Hysteria.
Charcot, and it was, hysteria, things like that. The French started to talk about this, even like during the times of Galvanism and other kinds of things too. This is where everybody turns off the volume. So part of it is some people would say a lot of things about Freud. I tend to follow a lot of the branch, largely what would be called like psychoanalysis or psychoanalytic. So when you watch movies, you see people on the couch and they're kind of like free associating, talking about things, dream analysis. Those are some of the things that I do. We'll talk about the reasons why I think that's important. But so people, you think of Freud in a lot of ways. Like I do the Rorschach thing, blood tests and so on too, which isn't Freud. It's Herman Rorschach. It looks a lot like Brad Pitt when he was young, actually. So look that up, Wikipedia. So Freud was primarily the first in psychoanalysis, really the first to establish some modern degree of psychology. There were others too, Watson and others. But his branch of that, he started, as many theorists begin, they kind of had their own students, their own disciples, so to speak. And what would happen with Freud, Jung being one, is that they would start to disagree with their teacher, and that essentially they would be somewhat excommunicated, and Freud would say, screw you, and so you're no longer allowed to present to whatever international kind of thing. And so Jung went on his own and did that. So what's interesting about Jung is that in Catholicism, particularly psychoanalysis, that is something where that is a type of psychology that some will actually do. And even in Indiana, some religious sisters are actually Jungian analysts too. So Jung is still from the same branch. It just kind of goes a different direction. So how that splits off in other ways, if you go from then to now, it's very much of where I think since the 1960s things have changed a lot. It's kind of the birth of cognitive psychology, thinking kinds of psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy, and so on too. I do think there's a place of this of where money has driven a lot of this. So what is the fastest, most efficacious way we can do things? Right. How do we get from A to Z with 2 letters as opposed to going through the full alphabet? So as a Catholic psychologist, what I have to look at is like, what is my understanding of the human person? Which is rooted, in the faith, intrinsic goodness and so on. And it has to be something of where, how do I understand people? Well, I understand people really 2 ways. And some of this is Freudian to some degree, some of it could be Jungian. I think he's very mystical, and some of like his writings and collected. For example, he would say...
he...
Young.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, so a lot of his theories indeed were very mystical, like how we talk about things. Something called the collective unconscious. But I tend to view people as far as their personality, and I view them developmentally. So, the joke is, John, are you analyzing me? And it's like, well, not until you ask that question. So now, the meter's on. That's not true. So I don't analyze people outside of work. I mean, there's things that I notice. If somebody says, John, my ears perk up, and certain things, I hear my name and it gets my attention, kind of thing. But it's more of a curiosity, but I'm not really interested in analyzing your life when I'm just at dinner and just trying to hang out with friends. Now, Tom and I have had, a bit of a dream.
Oh, he
analysis.
loves my crazy dreams.
Yeah, he had a very interesting one.
I had another good one recently I wanted to tell you, but I forgot it.
Yeah. So Freud would say that the dreams are the royal road of the unconscious. And so it's something where, if you think about this from St. Joseph kind of dreams, it's pretty rare. Sometimes God could speak to you directly, as he did to St. Joseph, and he got up and left. He went to Egypt, which is great. Most dreams, though, is a way that it's a few things. It's more of the residue of what's left over from the day. So if your wife told you, Tom, go to the store and get 10 things and you forgot the eggs, you have a dream of going about to the store and buying eggs. It's not very interpretive. It's left over from the day. Dreams tend to be very symbolic in the sense of it is your unconscious that's actually expressing itself. So it's not as, some people I knew of in high school would go and get the dream book, and I had a dream about cats, and page 65 says cats means this, and so I'm going to get a lot of money.
That's always struck me as being not too far from the zodiac.
Well, it could. I mean, and then you're starting to question numerology and other things too, which is, some of those kinds of things tend to come up, and even in some religious orders, kind of getting into that of where, not numerology, but
the Jesuits were really big into it. The personality wheel.
Enneagram.
Enneagram.
Yeah. So I think that gets into at least a bit deeper water. So the other part of dreams, I think, so outside of the symbolic, is very much of where it's a way that our minds try and problem solve or be able to understand things, but it's not so literal. It's very rarely literal. That's more of the first example. So it's that's weird. It's yeah, it is weird.
So I lost track.
Yeah.
Are you saying that we're on the right track with Freud, or maybe...
I told you the psychology nerds are like this, Tom. Everyone else turned off the episode. So Freud is where it started. Jung is some part of that. And now it's a completely, I would say, almost different trunk. So a lot of those older guys, basically late 19th century through probably the 1950s, were largely kind of different branches of the same tree. There's different trees now. Mostly it's cognitive. A lot now is becoming more body, brain kinds of things, mindfulness, stuff like that too. You're starting to see even some of how Eastern philosophies are starting to integrate into modern psychology. So when somebody comes in, hey, Dr. John, hey, I know exactly what I need. I read on WebMD. This is my problem. I know we can get this wrapped up in 6 sessions. I mean, then we have a lot to talk about. So that's not really how psychology works. So I don't think it's necessarily even the same trunk. I think it's a different tree now. A lot of what's being taught about psychology is a lot of that's kind of just silliness from the past, and they're wrong.
Jordan Peterson is probably the most famous Jungian psychologist alive today.
He's the Canadian?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I also am puzzled by that because I don't think there are differences between Freud and Jung, but I don't know that they're significant enough to say psychology would have taken a different...
It would have come to the same conclusion. I mean,
right.
I mean, not to get into detail that people really don't care about, but because you have to look at this from the standpoint of where... what people did 100 years ago is pretty remarkable for what little they knew.
Right.
And now we have neuroscience, we have imaging, lots of different kinds of things. We understand biology differently too.
We understand addictions.
We do, very much
More.
so. So that part of where you would just go to sleep with Prince Valium. Your great grandmother would just take Valium every night because that's what she did for 40 years. You don't see those kinds of things. We understand addiction.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think the question is a good question, but I don't think that the answer is a conclusion that would be accepted now because insurance or otherwise, they don't want longer-term psychotherapy. They want something quick and dirty. Band-Aids on broken arms.
I will tell you that you kind of solidified... I want to think the right way to say this. When you told me Jordan Peterson is the preeminent Jungian...
Wouldn't you say that?
I didn't know it was Jungian. I know he was University of Toronto. Was it Toronto?
Have you never heard his lectures on scripture?
Some.
Which is very interesting because he's an atheist. But he likes to talk about God a lot.
He's a
an
deist
atheist.
for sure.
Yeah. Catholics want to claim him. He's not.
His wife just came into the church at Easter.
He's got he has a very interesting view of the world.
Yeah.
And it's very much, to me, can be boiled down to kind of like just suck it up, buttercup.
There's some of that. I like him. I think that he knows the research very well.
Right.
I also think he likes to talk about what he wants to talk about quite a bit. And a lot of people really love that.
His lectures on scripture are absolutely phenomenal.
I tried to do his newest book about. It had some God in the title. It ended up it wasn't what I thought it was, and I couldn't finish it. All right, let's move on.
All right.
We bored everybody to death.
All right.
Sorry.
What else you
That's
got?
okay.
Did not bore everybody to death.
This is what I do for a living, Tom.
So they might have two for you now.
Okay.
I had one, and he made me think of another. And he started talking about mystics.
Yeah.
It feels like we don't have mystics in the world today. Do you think we do, and they just haven't been identified? Do you think...
I mean, some people would say, like, the church hasn't said this, but some people would say that, like, those people at Medjugorje in former Yugoslavia are mystics. They claim to see the Blessed Mother every day at 3 o'clock, so...
So we certainly haven't had anybody on the level of Padre Pio or the...
Padre Pio is only...
It wasn't that long
50
ago.
years ago.
I know.
You know,
I
I
don't
mean,
disagree.
I think... So you're talking about, like, great miraculous
Maybe. I don't know.
mystics. What do you mean by a mystic?
I just feel like... And here's the thing I think the trap we fall into. We look at 2,000 years of church history, and you read it in a single... You lose a sense of time being expansive as opposed to compressed.
Yeah.
And so when you think about it, 50 years ago to us feels like, why hasn't there been a great mystic in the last 50 years? But when you look at it in a 2,000-year time period, you're like, that was yesterday.
I'll tell you one reason why, Tom, for sure, is almost every mystic in church history has been a celibate, and predominantly they have been like cloistered celibates.
But would you count the the children at Fatima? Would you count them as mystics? Because to me, they kind of fall into that.
I would call them visionaries because they saw the Blessed Mother, but they never went on to write anything, right? Like they had the 3 secrets and gave those to the Pope, and that was it. Then one became a nun, and the other 2 went on to live fairly normal lives. But like I'm thinking of like Hildegard of Bingham or Julian of Norwich or John of the Cross, or those are real mystics who have kind of Teresa of Avila, right? That have these life-altering experiences. They're more than visions. They're like experiences where they feel that they're there. I mean, Teresa of Avila describing being pierced by the arrow of God's love, or read the hymns of Hildegard of Bingen and Julian of Norwich. I mean, they're caught up in these experiences, not just seeing the Blessed Mother appear and hearing something.
So if you contacted the bishop and said, I have a parishioner...
I would not.
I have a parishioner that seems to be astigmatic.
Yeah.
What would happen from that point on? Is there some mechanism that he would report that and it would be investigated?
Well, like, we had people insisting that a moldy host was a Eucharistic miracle, and so we sent it off for formal scientific testing to see what was going on, and it's common bread mold, and okay. So yeah, I mean, I think there is some investigation work done by the church, partly theological investigation and some medical investigation, because we don't want people being tempted by their example to hurt themselves, right? I don't want you sticking a nail in your hand and then claiming it's the stigmata because you think that's like the level of holiness that you should ascribe to, right? Like,
Well, the church wants truth.
right.
I mean,
When The Passion of the Christ came out with Mel Gibson's big movie,
yes,
there was this huge uptick in people nailing themselves to crosses. Like all the mentally ill people who saw that movie. And do you know how hard it is to dial a phone with one hand? Because you've nailed your other hand to the cross, and then realize
iPhone makes it easier.
The iPhone makes it easier.
no, but back then you didn't have Hey Siri and all that kind of stuff.
Right, you're right. Rotary.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I mean, I wondered at that point, religious sisters, like some orders are growing. I mean, there's more potential of that too. And some of this, Father Peter said this on the podcast before. It's also a question too of how faithful are people now,
right,
compared to 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago too. I mean, how serious are they taking their faith? It's not that God doesn't want to, but do people want to believe?
So the church's stance on miracles can be summed up as miracles are God's gifts designed to strengthen and increase our faith. And so if they will not accomplish that purpose of God's, then God will use something else.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you think you're a mystic, Tom?
No, I just.
Do you want to be a mystic?
And I brought this up to you before.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
No,
it just
we're
doesn't.
talking about this.
Mysticism doesn't feel like it has a place in the modern world, but I don't know that doesn't mean mystics don't exist in the modern world. I just think it means that the modern world isn't maybe as accepting as of mystics.
I think that in some ways the modern world does understand some things better. I think that degree of skepticism is good, to try and seek natural explanations. And then
Well, there's no getting around it. 500 years ago, people were more superstitious than they
Right.
are today. People who are superstitious are probably going to be
I'm
more
just a
willing
little
to.
I think they were, but I would argue that they were also faithful but ignorant.
And I'm not using that to say that St. John of the Cross was or was not a legitimate mystic. I'm just saying at the time
Right,
he was
right,
alive,
right.
people were more open
Right.
to that.
But boy, a lot of the mystics, they really had it pretty rough. So
They did.
John of the Cross and
Yeah,
getting
I'm not
locked
called
up.
to it. It's not my calling. 3 squares in a day.
All right, another one for you.
Yes.
This is probably going to be a multi-layered question. We lay people, I think, sometimes struggle understanding the place holy orders play in hierarchy.
Holy orders or religious
Not
orders?
religious orders, I'm
Okay,
sorry,
yeah,
religious
yeah.
orders. So you are referred to as just a diocesan priest, right?
I'm just a lowly diocesan.
And that is the phrase
That's
the
what his
church
bumper sticker
uses.
says.
Yes.
So
They even call us secular clergy. So there's religious clergy and secular clergy. And we are secular
is that because you don't live in a monastery?
because we live in the world, yeah.
Okay. So let's say
Which is viewed beneath, like,
It
religion.
is. So a religious vocation is viewed as the highest vocation, with a fully cloistered life being the highest of the high.
really?
Yes.
So there's even a pecking order in the clergy.
Oh.
Well, I know that exists because that's kind of where I'm going. So
Father Peter's like double A ball.
we all understand.
Is there a triple A?
There's a triple A and there's a majors. So.
Oh, no. The lowest.
I think we understand how you would progress through church hierarchy, right? Like your next step would be to be a bishop.
Right.
And then from there you become a cardinal.
Right.
And you
Dear reader, none of this will happen.
Yes.
Right, but and then through that you get appointed instead of being just a you would get new assignments through that.
Yes.
That would potentially bring you up the food chain till you were maybe someday stationed in Rome.
Right.
I don't understand if you were a Jesuit, do you first have to move up the Jesuit rank
No.
before Rome is going to identify
No.
you, or
No, I mean, being named a bishop is a lot about who you know, right? And who appreciates you. So every bishop is supposed to submit names of priests that he thinks would be decent bishops.
Well, let's use a local example.
Yes.
Archbishop Beekline.
Right.
He was actually a monk of St. Meinrad,
Right.
correct?
Now, he was the rector of St. Meinrad Seminary for 20-odd years.
So is that how he got the recognition
Yes,
he needed?
exactly. So bishops were coming to visit the seminary. Enough liked him, put his name on their list. Those lists all go to the Apostolic Nuncio, the Pope's ambassador in Washington, D.C. And when a diocese comes empty, he submits a list of possible names to the Congregation for Bishops in Rome. They submit 3 names then to the Holy Father, and he either chooses one or says, none of these, give me more names.
Do they try at all to have a balance between secular priests and
I don't think
as bishops.
I don't think they think that.
What about as cardinals?
Very few. Traditionally, very few religious are made cardinals.
Okay.
Because it's difficult to say, oh, I took a vow of poverty, but I should be a prince of the church.
But Pope Leo obviously did it, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, the Pope at that time, the Pope that named him, was a Jesuit himself. So you got religious orders promoting religious orders, which is a way to hasten the end of the world, if you want my opinion.
But is the way
we need more diocesan priests. The Marines of the church
but is the
know
way,
how to run things.
See, and I almost used the military as an example,
Yes.
and I know, but I knew you were going to go with the Marines. And, so, Pope Leo, was it really probably important for him to, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank what order he's part of. Augustinian.
Right.
So was it really important for him to rise up within the Augustinian order to be...
No, but having risen up, obviously told other church leaders, hey, this is a guy people think are smart, like he's elected by his brother Augustinian, so they obviously respect him and think he's smart, and so let's give him something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of it, going back to the mystics, thinking about that, reading what I did about Pope Leo, how he liked to say Mass and practice that when he was a kid. Some of the mystics almost have like this sense of like when they're born, they have these natural gifts immediately, almost. I mean, how they experience things and some of that too.
I mean, Therese of Lisieux was, 14, 15 when she entered the convent?
Yes.
I mean, she just knew immediately, almost.
She had to argue her way in, if I remember.
Yeah, because she was too young. And but she had two sisters already, biological sisters already in the convent, and so they kind of relented, saying, "Well, your sisters can babysit you if you know."
Quick funny story. So, a group of Catholic psychologists and I were on a phone call with Father Mark Foley, who's a Carmelite superior on the East Coast, and he wrote a book called "In the Context of Holiness" about Therese. And so, we read the book and talked about it, which was a very good book. And so we said, it just goes to show how little we know, because we as psychologists who do a lot of evaluations, like psychological evaluations to actually be considered for religious orders, Therese would have never made it in, and she's a doctor of the church, so we don't really know anything.
Right.
So,
it's true.
Yeah.
But Ignatius of Loyola was investigated by the Inquisition 3 times.
Yeah. So we have a listener question.
Oh.
From one of our favorite listeners, Nick. So it says...
Yeah, we're done with your questions, Tom.
No, but I mean, there's never like, hey, will you please ask Tom?
Right.
Who's his favorite?
Nick says, so I say the act of contrition every night.
That's good.
Oh.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. No. Hold on.
No. Okay. We're going to have to define something. I know this makes him mad when I ask to define things, but...
All right, we'll get side railed here in a minute. So if I do, or if we do this every night, why do we do the Lord have mercy at Mass? Why do we even bother to do these things if we go to confession? What do all these things we do at Mass as far as like saying Lord have mercy?
All these things.
All these things.
Like the Lord have mercy.
Yes.
That's one thing.
So if he's doing the act of contrition.
Yeah.
So please, do you know what he means by act of contrition? Is it that long?
Lord,
Oh my God, I'm hardly sorry for the sins on my heart yet.
See, I don't know that one. And honestly, I don't care to learn it.
That's okay.
Because I love the good old Lord Jesus Christ, my Son of the Father, have mercy on me, a sinner.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good enough.
And so okay.
Yeah. The act of contrition every night is a good, pious, devotional practice. It helps us end our night by asking for God's mercy. It's a little bit like, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep.
Hush, little baby, don't say a word.
So it's a good prayer practice in your private devotional life. The so-called penitential rite at the beginning of Mass, which is either the Lord have mercy or the I confess to you, my brothers and sisters, the Confiteor, that act is a public communal acknowledgement that we are sinners, and that kind of sets our posture for entering into Mass in humility, that we are here knowing that we are creations and not creators, and that we are sinners in need of salvation. And so that's a posture setting thing. It does not forgive sins, not even venial sins. Sins are forgiven at Mass when we receive and consume the Eucharist. Our venial sins are forgiven, assuming that we are not in a state of mortal sin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah.
So, have you read the book The Way of the Pilgrim?
No. Is this one of your hippie books?
No, this is old. This is a book that's so old they don't know who wrote it.
Okay.
It's the one about the guy. It's so you know in the Eastern
Pilgrim's
Church.
Progress
No.
by Paul.
In
By
the
Paul
Eastern
Bunyan.
Church, it's common to say that what they call the Jesus prayer,
Yes,
what I
yes,
just said,
yes, yes.
throughout
Right,
the day.
right.
And so
In fact, that if you see an Eastern with beads, they're not praying the Rosary; they're praying the Jesus prayer.
Yeah. And so there's a book, The Way of the Pilgrim, and it's about this guy who he's trying to find enlightenment, and he wanders the countryside for decades, and the only thing he knows to do is pray the Jesus prayer.
Sure.
I think it's interesting. We talked about tradition. Maybe that was the last episode. I lose track. I think it's interesting that is a Eastern tradition, but I feel like that should be more.
Yeah.
Western, or what do you mean?
Yeah, I mean it's big
Okay.
in the Eastern Church, and we've just never.
I think
The Latin Church has never embraced it as
the
much.
Eastern culture and mind is much more comfortable with the unknowing, and so they have a tendency to approach God through kind of that simple thing and the aspect that we can't know God.
Well, and they also view it as complying with always be a prayer.
Right. The Western mind is much more comfortable with categorization and investigation and feeling like we can't exhaust our knowledge of God, but we can make lists of things we for sure do know about God.
Yeah. Good question, Tom.
Yeah.
No, Nick's question.
Well, you kind of added to it a bit, so yeah, Nick.
If you've never read I think it's called The Way of the Pilgrim. It's not very long. It's a very interesting book to read.
All right.
No, it's better than you talking about the shack. So,
Much.
Can we talk about the
Much.
shack?
No, we cannot talk about
listeners,
the shack.
please keep sending your questions to
Please.
CatholicGenX@gmail.com.
Especially questions about the shack.
That's right.
We need to
Tom
talk about the
is the
shack
number one
more.
fan.
Or the great movie For Greater Glory.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Or write your letters, P.O. Box 17333, Indianapolis 46217.
Yeah.
Good night, Tom.